I don't buy that because you're messing with an ACL injury here. Why in the hell would you rush a player like that back? You're talking about career-ending stuff if you rush him back. But we do see CP3 news coming out saying he might be ready for game 3. Does this spell disaster for the Clippers if CP3 comes back? I did say Cameron Payne was going to be huge. He has been huge. He's been major in this series.
Yes.
Huge.
So, yeah. So if you've got CP3 coming back, is it over? Are we talking a sweep of the Clippers? I need to know, guys, what are we looking at here?
It could be a sweep. I mean, I think the Clippers have a game left in them, but if no Kawhi Leonard, I just don't see them winning this series. And Pandemic P, he had a golden opportunity last night. We talked about it last week, right? He played well in that Utah series. Gotta give him a lot of credit. But this game was on a silver platter, and just the free throw demons just essentially just attacked him. But that last defensive play, though, essentially an alley-oop on the second play, you let that happen. This just feels like the Phoenix Suns season. It's just starting to feel like it's just meant to be. And with the Nets out now, I think Phoenix, they got to be probably the favorite of them and the Bucks to get to the finals. But I just don't see, if Kawhi Leonard's not there, can they beat this team 4 times? They're already down 0-2. Not saying they can't because they did it against the Mavericks as well as their first-round opponent. I just don't
Austin
see it.
Hates you for saying that or making him remember that, but whatever.
Austin, you have more problems right now with your team than losing in the playoffs. Just saying.
Calling him out.
Wow.
That's terrible. Trey, give it your insight on the 2-0 lead for the Suns. Obviously no Kawhi Leonard. I even think if Kawhi Leonard was there and you had a healthy CP3, I still think the Suns win this series regardless. It's not going to be a sweep or even a gentleman's sweep. It'll go be a longer series, but would you rush Kawhi Leonard back for this series or just, hey, take the rest of the year off, get ready for next season? That is the ideal thing to do. I just can't see them rushing him back for this series at all.
Well, and it's Kawhi Leonard, right? He didn't come back for the San Antonio Spurs in their playoff and their quest to get a championship when he didn't play at all that regular season. This guy is conscious with his body. I don't see him coming back. I think those are just rumors coming. But like y'all said, CP3 and Kawhi Leonard both playing. I still had the Suns winning this probably in 7. But now with Kawhi Leonard not being there and CP3 coming back for game 3, I say he's coming back for game 3. He's cleared COVID protocol. He cleared earlier today, so he will be available for game 3. So this, like Gio said, man, this Phoenix Suns team is just, it's their year. I don't know. Like, it's all happening right perfectly for CP3. And the funny thing is, last night, we're not mentioning this, Scott Foster was the referee who CP3 has never won a playoff game with him as a head referee. And Scott Foster and the referees tried to blow for the Suns last night, but man, just that great a mixture of good luck and bad things happening to the Clippers. I feel like the Clippers needed this win. It just feels different this series than it did the previous 2 series. It just feels like the Phoenix Suns they have scoring all over the court. They have Ayton, who is not like Rudy Gobert at all. If you want to stretch him out, he can guard you on the perimeter, still guard the paint, and his length, his jump, and we saw his jump ability last night and his effect. Man, if it wasn't for him and Cameron Payne last night, because Booker was a shell of himself for the most part of that game last night. If they didn't step up, then we're probably looking at 1-1 series and probably looking at 6 or 7 games. But it feels like the Clippers needed that game just a little bit more because, like you said, the Suns are getting CP3 back, and we don't know about Kawhi Leonard. So it just feels a little bit different. And you kind of saw it's weird about Paul George too, because this guy is the last 4 games has played remarkable basketball. He's looked like the old Indiana Pacer, Paul George. And then he hit a go-ahead shot with 27 seconds left or something like that. And then he sent him to the free throw line, and he misses to an 86% free throw shooter. He shot 126 2 shots in a row and only missed once. And it happened to him last night again. I just kind of feel bad for the man because he was playing remarkable ball. But, man, this is playoff P. You never know what you're going to get. But it just seems like it's destined for the Suns this year. Everything, they're clicking at the right time. They're not just relying on Devin Booker. We saw – and what a story about Cameron Payne coming. He was overseas a couple years ago. The guy didn't even know he was going to get a shot again, and he got a wake-up call. That bubble was the best thing that ever happened to him. Getting an opportunity to see what he did in the bubble last year, and now he's seen him flourish. And I think he's probably the best point guard. I feel stupid for not bringing him up for six man of the year. I thought he should have been one of the six man of the year vote getters. But like Gio said, I have the Suns, and I think it's going to go 6. I think for some reason I think this Clippers are going to get 2, but I just think that it's over. I think this is the Suns series. I don't see the Clippers being the Suns 4 out of 5 times.
No, definitely not. I mean, this is you're pretty much right. This is the Suns series to lose, basically. I mean, God forbid, the health comes into play for this. I mean, I don't see the Clippers winning a game at all. I think last night was that proverbial the air is out of the balloon, basically. I mean, that's what we're talking here. They gave it their all in game 2, and that's it. I don't think you're going to see anything at all from the Clippers the rest of the series, especially if CP3 comes back. No Kawhi Leonard. You do not rush Kawhi
weird
Leonard.
About the whole Kawhi Leonard is that they haven't actually rolled him out. You know what I mean? For the entire playoffs, right? So there's still that small glimmer of hope, but I just don't see it either, though.
Well, they're also saying no timetable. They're saying no timetable. What does that mean? No timetable.
Well, guess what? If you're eliminated from the playoffs, it doesn't matter what the timetable. You're not going to be playing.
But if it's an injury like you're saying, an ACL, I mean, you don't rush a guy back from that at all.
No. Especially with his age, because he's getting older in age. He's in I think he's 30s, right, or late 20s. Yeah. So he tears his ACL right now. He's pretty much done for the rest of the season next year, and then he's getting older in age. Plus, he has other nagging injuries as well. I want to rush him back from the club, but the thing is, isn't he a free agent after this year? Like he can opt out of his contract.
He can opt out. I mean,
so
I see him coming back. I think he's probably going to
get
come
to the
back.
conference finals. I think getting to the conference finals, getting that monkey off their back a little bit. I think that's what the Clippers are really glad about. That just seems like they're happy with getting to the conference finals for the first time in their franchise history. So I think you're right. I think he does come back, especially if, but they got to get a point guard this offseason, or they're never going to advance. That's what they're missing. They need a point guard.
Well, I mean, you're probably going to have. There is a point guard out there that is available. I think it's through free agency as well. And it's kind of like, well, I don't see it happening, or it's kind of a dumb thing, but you could go out and get a LaMelo Ball. I mean, not sorry, Lonzo Ball. I'm sorry, Lonzo Ball, not LaMelo, Lonzo Ball. He's not happy, obviously, in New Orleans. You definitely have.
I'm not sure why no one's happy in New Orleans. I mean, it's like
Zion's not.
Even Zion's coming out, his family saying he may not even be happy in New Orleans, which I kind of find a little odd. I mean, New Orleans isn't exactly, light years away from being playoff contenders. I mean, they're right there.
I also think it's the market. I don't think no one's really keen on. I mean, we saw Davis leave New Orleans, right? Obviously, they couldn't get the job done around him, but it just seems to me like no one wants to play. Plus, when you have Stan Van kind of screaming at you every game.
I mean, that makes sense. But say you're the Clippers. There's 2 options right now. If you definitely need a point guard, you have Lonzo Ball who's going to be available.
I think Kyle Lowry will be out there as well.
Kyle Lowry's
he's another guy that's been floating that I could see.
Is this another?
Here's the thing. Would you trade for a Ben Simmons?
That's what I was going to say. Is this a move where a Ben Simmons comes in? I mean,
because they got shooters, right? They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league. They have free throw shoot. You just need a guy to facilitate and pass the ball, because that's what the Clippers. They have no one to orchestrate their offense. Bradley Beal is not a point guard. Rajon Rondo's a shell of himself half the time. He has 1 or 2 good moments at the end of the game. They just don't have anyone at the late game situations to control that, like the Suns doing Chris Paul, or the Hawks doing Trae Young, or whoever, or the Warriors having Steph Curry. Like this team, to move on, they need a point guard. They don't have that right now. Same thing with the Lakers. Lakers don't have a point guard. These LA teams need point guards, and this is a year they need to go out and get them. I think a Ben Simmons thing would be great, because you can orchestrate. You can put Kawhi Leonard in a spot. You can put Paul Pierce in. Not asking him to do too much, bringing him, making decisions, get him to be the big assist man, and just letting them do what they do best. So I think Ben Simmons would fit great, but I mean Ben Simmons would fit better a lot of other places too. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers went out and got him.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Ben works on his game this summer.
Well, I mean, you know, and John brought up a point here. Damian Lillard to the Clippers. I mean,
Ain't gonna happen.
you're talking about. You say it can't happen, but I mean,
I didn't say can't. I said it ain't gonna happen.
okay, well, it ain't gonna happen, is what you said. But
Is Jerry West still there?
Yes.
Is he still, So I mean, I wouldn't put it past him that he's done some.
But
big,
is Damian Lillard? But Damian Lillard, that's not the true point guard that the Clippers need, right?
No.
Yeah, but he would be a huge upgrade to what they have right now. He is
That's
a scoring
true, that's
guard.
true.
So
yeah.
I mean, do you package George? And
But why would you get rid of George? I mean, that
Yeah, you need
the
George.
idea is to keep Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So you definitely want to go, like you said, a Kyle Lowry is definitely a good fit for them there.
That's probably a better fit.
A Ben Simmons, if you can pull that kind of deal off, which you're going to have to give up one of those guys to get a Ben Simmons because of the contract. I mean,
Well,
you're going to have.
I heard a report that Kyrie Irving could be on the block.
The Nets are very unhappy with Kyrie Irving right now.
So that could be a possibility. It would be interesting to see where he goes. Only problem is it doesn't seem to really stay healthy during playoff time when you really need him the most.
No.
So that's kind of a drawback. But yeah, you know what? This offseason is going to be very, very interesting. Similar to the NFL offseason where
Kemba Walker.
Yeah, Walker's another one.
But
He got
he
just got traded to Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma City said they're going to move him. They can work with him for another trade destination.
It's either trade or they may just buy him outright. I mean, Oklahoma City does have a cap.
I have to give them credit. They do a lot of collecting draft picks. Very good. And they get rid of players when they need to. I mean, we've seen a dozen of guys go through there and just get traded. So yeah, they have a ton of guys. Kemba Walker. I think so.
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of things because the whole Ben Simmons talk to you. If we keep on that real quick. You know, you've got Ben Simmons rumored to actually one of the top places is the San Antonio Spurs. And I see the reasoning behind it, but I don't understand it. I mean, you've got a lot of people saying you're getting a 3-time All-Star, you're getting, you know, an all-defensive player team. I mean, there's positives to Ben Simmons being traded to San Antonio. You get a good 4 years out of the guy. He's not even 25. I mean, he's still 24 years old. So I mean, you're getting youth, you're getting the player, you're getting an all-star player. And the only thing that keeps me back is you've got to get a scorer, and he's not necessarily a scorer. So it's not that I don't want Ben Simmons in San Antonio. I would see it
work,
but it's scoring.
I can't see it working.
See it work. I mean, listen. I believe Chip England's still there with the Spurs. A guy that Tony Parker has talked about that really helped his jump shot. Maybe the Spurs can get him in there, and maybe they can just work on his mental game because he has all the tools, right? We can see that it's clearly mental. I mean, the guy only takes like 4 shots a game, right? I think it can work. Call me crazy. I know he's mentally ill right now, and it's just not working out. But I think with a new team, a new city that will embrace the kid, I think he just has too much talent. He's made 2 all-star teams, all defensive teams. I think he's shown some. I mean, he scored 42 this year against forgot what team it was. So we see the flashes. We just need, and maybe Greg Popovich and that staff can get something out of him. I would be very interested in a Ben Simmons in San Antonio. Call me crazy, but I would love to see something like that.
I'm calling you crazy because the San Antonio Spurs are on the same. I am. The Spurs are dead last this year in 3-point field goals made. They cannot score the raw. They need 3-point shooting. Ben Simmons does not give it to you, even if he does improve his jump shot. Who are you going to get to replace him in the 3-point for 3-point? Patty Mills ain't going to be the best 3-point shooter for years and years to come. So I mean, they need to go out and get.
As much as I want 3-point, we just need a guy that some excitement within the Spurs organization because the past few years, let's just be honest, it hasn't been very exciting. We've had some flashes.
But Spurs Twitter excitement would not work for like 2 or 3 games in the beginning.
The year. I'm not talking about them because they're very Dr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde. But I'm just saying in general to just change some things. The Spurs have always had some very good pieces, very good role players, right? We need some stars here, man. And I'm not saying Ben is the guy, but we do need a star. And I don't know if Rosen is that, and Murray, he's a very good player, but
Okay, so let's paint a picture here. Everybody in San Antonio seems to want a John Collins here. I mean, they're
like
all
him.
hyped. Now, with the Hawks being in the Eastern Conference Finals, let's be real. I seriously doubt Atlanta lets John Collins go
He
this
ain't going.
offseason. I mean, there's no way. He's part of that future. So check this out. You go and say you do trade for a Ben Simmons. Okay, so you've got your star. You still have cap space because you're still going to have to relinquish some contracts to get Ben Simmons. You have cap space. What if you go and sign a Duncan Robinson? There's your shooter. Come draft time, you have so many options because you can go Corey Kispert as another shooter from the outside, or you can
I like
fill
Corey
that
Kispert.
void in the middle with a Kai Jones, a Jalen Johnson. You can go get a young guy in the middle. So then you're left with potentially, because you can probably do a sign and trade for a DeMar DeRozan to get a Ben Simmons where the contracts are going to almost even out. You may have to give up a Lonnie Walker. They may ask for this year's first, but if you can get away without giving this year's first, giving the Sixers what they want, maybe a first next year would doable. You can look at a potential lineup of a DeJounte, a Ben Simmons, a Duncan Robinson, and a Kai Jones, per se, out of the draft. That looks a lot more promising because you do have your shooter in Duncan Robinson. You have your playmaker in Ben Simmons. And for whatever reason, I feel DeJounte and Derek seem to play better off the ball a little bit more. And it allows them to be that scorer that they can be. And let Ben run the point to where you don't have to get his shooting. DeJounte can shoot. Derek can shoot. Freeze them up. That's just me throwing crap out there and seeing if it sticks. Is that something that's even possible? And Chris is right.
No.
Spurs need an experienced veteran. They do need veteran play. But what kind of veteran are we looking at for the Spurs this offseason? You're not going to go and re-sign a Rudy Gay. Patty Mills, if he comes really cheap, that's another guy you may want to have just for the locker room, but it's got to be cheap.
listen, the Spurs, this is a star-driven league. This isn't the NFL. It's a collective of players. You need stars. And the Spurs, we just don't have the guy since Duncan has left. LaMarcus Aldridge was all right, but not the guy. And that's what they need. And we just – until then, the Spurs are going to continue to be in this kind of loophole where we're picking 12, 13th. And listen, I tell people, if you're going to suck, be the best at sucking. Don't go around the 10th look, because what's it going to do? You're not going to find very much good talent. You might find a stud here and there, but for Spurs, if you're going to tank next season, just tank the right way and just be dead last and everything.
But I mean, but then you have everybody all pissed off.
Now, who can?
But this is the thing. This is the problem with Spurs fandom is that
It's a regular rivalry.
it's okay to suck. It's okay to be bad. Look at Phoenix, where they're at now. They sucked for years, and they had a legit star in Devin Booker.
I mean,
Look at where Atlanta is right now. They had to get a youth movement. They had to suck for a while. I mean, look where they are now.
Philadelphia had to do the exact same.
The Sixers had it at one point years ago, but had a season where they had like 10 wins, right? Like, you need to just suck for a while, collect those draft picks. Look what Oklahoma City is doing. I think in a few years, they're going to be back, right? So it's just being in the middle of the pack. Sometimes if you look at the Magic, another team that seems to be in the middle of the pack, they can't seem to break through, right? It's just some of these teams, when you're in the middle of that pack, you might hit a home run, but for the most part, you got to start hitting the draft picks real early.
Well, and this is why I kind of got upset with Spurs Twitter today, or not today, this whole year. They're like, "Oh, we need to make the playoffs. We have blah 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 blah." No, you don't. This draft class is stacked. Y'all should have tanked this year.
Well, it's a stacked draft.
Who could have helped? You got Kate Cunningham, who would help your point guard needs right there and then. A playmaker, a shooter, all about all the above. You have Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga, who is going to be a star in this NBA league. You have Mosby. You have all these great. This is a stacked draft. This is the year you needed to tank, and they didn't do it. That's why I was kind of upset. I'm like, oh, why? You ain't gonna do anything in the playoffs anyway. You might as well just tank and try to get it.
I've been
They're
rooting
never
for
going to tank. They're never going to tank.
I've been rooting for a tank. Listen, if you're gonna suck, just suck the best you can.
I get
No
that.
point intended.
Cole Yemen is basically here saying, draft Jalen Johnson as our next Rudy Gay, or draft Giddey and trade a guard or two. Josh Giddey is a baller. I mean, he's balling overseas. He needs to improve his scoring. His jump shot is not there yet. But if you need a playmaker, Josh Giddey is a playmaker. I like Jalen Johnson, but at number 12, it's so hard to take Jalen Johnson at 12. Right now, he's projected to be right around, I think, 18 to 24 on draft boards. So if you can trade down, get some assets, maybe a couple of picks here and there in the future drafts, and get a Jalen Johnson there, that makes perfect sense to me. If they're staying at 12, you've got, players that are going to be a lot better than what Jalen Johnson brings out. And the sad thing is Jalen Johnson is good. His ceiling is, it's huge. He's got a lot of potential ahead of him. But Jalen Johnson has a lot of red flags when it comes to personal issues. He's got to get his mind right before he can actually make it in the NBA. The Spurs are a team that can definitely help him with that. I do like the Jalen Johnson pick, just not at 12. But you guys are right. I mean, you both are right. I will not say y'all are wrong when it comes to tankathon. You've got to tank at some point, and that's what we saw. Philadelphia was really good at that. The one team that comes to mind, like you said, I said OKC. You're looking at the Orlando Magic that have 2 top 10 picks in a fully loaded draft this year. Every pick in the first round is going to be big. You have superstar potentials in this draft. You have star potential in this draft.
You look at Charlotte, another team. Charlotte, right? Finally got LaMelo Ball, and this was a team that potentially could make a playoff run, right? So you just gotta suck. Now Michael Jordan just really bad at picking players, but you just gotta suck for a while and if you're, as Austin just said, the worst thing in sports is to be mediocre because you're just always in the middle of the pack. You can always overcome. Now you can get lucky, obviously, but I mean, besides that Kawhi Leonard trade, I mean, what have the Spurs really done? I mean, they've got some guys in the draft, but have they really hit that home run draft pick?
Well, and I will say this. Well, Lonnie Walker could be a stud in this league, but Greg Popovich refused to play him early in his career, which I mean, not a stud. I'm just saying he's a good bench player who could come and give you a bench at some point. Yeah, but for some reason he was in the doghouse. And then Johnson, Johnson, he's going to be a stud in this league. But Greg Popovich, I've said this. I'm sorry, Spurs fans, you don't want to hear this, but Greg Popovich needs to freaking retire. He's killing this team right now. That's why they won't tank, because he tries to keep them afloat. But Greg Popovich needs to go. That's the biggest problem. I'm telling you the truth.
Tough. I mean, it's so funny because if you're not trying to be critical, then for a fact that hey, it's probably time to move on. But without being disrespectful, it's hard to come out and say, oh hey, we need him to retire or we need to get rid of him. Yada yada. It's kind of like Pop goes on his own terms, basically. I completely see that from Spurs Nation. I really see that. Pop is definitely needs to probably take a step back. I see that. But it's not going to happen. They're not going to let him go. Like I've said before, the franchise, the ownership is so loyal to him. They're not going to pull the trigger. It's going to take a Jerry Jones type of thing where someone buys the team and says, I can't use you anymore, Coach Landry. You're fired. That's exactly what's going to take new ownership to come in and say, Pop, you did a fantastic job, but we don't need you anymore. And that is the tough part about it.
Well, why don't they just move him out of coaching and put him in the front office somewhere where he's still like a Brad Stevens, like
so he can nag?
Well, I'm just saying, but at some point, this franchise is your moneymaker, right? At some point, the Spurs the Spurs fans are loyal. They're always going to go to the game. So they're going to make their money and everything. But at some point, they're going to get fed up with this mediocre bull crap when all the potential is there. And at some point, they're going to give in to the Spurs organization. They're going to start losing money. That's all I'm saying is, so at one point, this loyalty kick you in the ass, and you're like, okay, well, now you need to go. I know Greg Popovich is a great coach. He's been there, 22, 23 years? I mean, it's time for a new regime. It is. I'm sorry, Spurs fans. I think Greg Popovich is a top 5 coach of all time. Some say the best coach of all ever. I would disagree with you. I have a couple others in mind, but he is a top 5 head coach. He brought 5 championships to your city. But at some point, it's time to say goodbye and let the new beginning. I think Becky Hammond would do a hell of a good job for this Spurs team. I just don't get it. I just don't want. I hate saying this, but since I think he was fixing to retire until his wife passed away, and I think he doesn't know what to do since that. And I think that's part of the problem.
I mean, the guy, all he really knows is coaching, and all he really knows is
wine. He knows wine.
Oh well, I mean, we're talking athletic. I think it was wine. The thing with the lottery. Okay, so we had the lottery last night. Obviously, the Detroit Pistons get the number 1 pick. Houston's got 2, Cleveland at 3, and we're talking Toronto at 4. Out of those 4 teams, Toronto was balling there. I mean, you're losing to Kyle Lowry. You're going to either get a Green or a Suggs in the top 4. I mean, you just replaced Kyle Lowry with an even better point guard prospect there. But Cade Cunningham going to Detroit, I've got to know this, because before we get into the Spurs thing, I got to know this. A, is Cade Cunningham going to stay a Piston forever? Because I just don't see that happening. And B, if you're Detroit, do you listen to potential blockbuster deals for the number 1 pick? Because Cade Cunningham is not going to get you to the promised land by himself. You need a lot of help in Detroit. So if you've got Oklahoma City knocking on your door saying, we'll give you 2 first-round picks this year and a first next year and whatever, even a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, do you pull the trigger on that if you're Detroit? I mean, you need a lot of help. You need tons of help.
You do, but I think Detroit, just go with Cade here. Yeah, I know he comes with some stuff and not 100% sold, but listen, he put up points in college, and he's a guy that I think could fit in Detroit. How long is he going to stay? Some of these guys. I mean, look at Zion, right? I mean, Zion's just barely got there, and he wants out, right? So
yeah,
but I think Detroit is itching for a winner. I mean, just take your risk. I mean, now if you can get some draft picks, and Oklahoma City could be. They have like 1 million draft picks over the next several years. It could be very interesting for Detroit. But if I'm the Pistons, I keep Cade. You build on what you have. And I think they have a good young nucleus right now. So just continue to grow and see where it goes.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, Cleveland is looking to probably get Evan Mobley. I can't see Houston with Christian Woods there drafting an Evan Mobley. That Twin Tower thing doesn't work in Houston to go get an Evan Mobley. So I'm thinking Houston goes either Green or Suggs. 3, I can definitely see, because you've got Darius Garland and Colin Sexton in Cleveland, pairing them up with an Evan Mobley. That makes more sense. So, Trey, do you see the top 4 going any other way? Do you see Mobley going 2 still, even though Houston technically doesn't need him? Houston needs guard help as well as forward help.
Well, I would disagree. I don't see Houston taking Mobley. I don't see that happening. I agree. But a player missing out is Mitchell from Baylor. That's a hell of a guard player. He's undersized. He can shoot the ball. He can guard. He can get up underneath. He's top 5 projected. But if I was Houston, I would totally. He's a Texan kid. He's a great. I mean, you saw what he did in the NCAA tournament this year. He's not afraid of the bright lights. The guy, he's a purified scorer. Knows how to get through. He's fast as hell. He can break down the defense anyway. He can guard your best defender, best offensive player as well. He's a hell defender. If I'm Houston, I'll look at Devin Mitchell or whatever his first name is, Mitchell out of Baylor before I will even look at Mobley. But Mobley ain't going. But I still think Suggs probably goes number. I mean, I can see them taking Suggs too in Houston, like you said. I just don't. I think Mobley goes to Cleveland, and I think those 4 or 5 are going to go, but just not in the same order. But if you're going to Detroit. I mean, they said today they're listening to trade offers for the number 1 overall pick. So that's a sign that Cade Cunningham's camp probably said, we're not coming to play for you no matter what. So I don't know if that's a smoke screen or whatever the case may be. But if you're a team like Golden State, you have 2 lottery picks in this upcoming draft. Do you trade those 2 picks, get the number 1 overall pick, and maybe a potential like Andrew Wiggins or something, or someone in that caliber to get to Cade Cunningham, or someone?
How about the Spurs trade up?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we all know that's not going to freaking happen. So
how about we trade up and go do something, right? I mean,
who are you going to trade? Who are you going to trade?
Listen,
you're the Spurs fan.
Listen,
who are you going to trade?
Anybody but Johnson and Murray. Everybody can go.
Well, exactly. Nobody would want them. No one else.
Yeah,
what's the point?
Sure.
Take Rudy, man.
Yeah, I would. I don't know if I'd go to Detroit. I lived close enough to Detroit when I lived in Ohio, and that's about as close.
I'm not too far off from the Motor City, but
yeah. Well, okay. So going real quick to Cunningham because I want to get to the Spurs draft pick here. I mean, we're looking at a potential starting 5 of Killian Hayes at point, Wayne Ellington, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee. If you throw a Cade Cunningham in here, you've got Killian Hayes. Where do you put Cade Cunningham? Would you slide Wayne Ellington out and put him next to Killian Hayes? I mean, that's 2 playmakers right there. Or, like I said, get 2 draft picks if you can from OKC potentially. Or, let's not be stupid here. Orlando's got 2 in the top 10. I mean, if they say we'll give you top 2, we'll give you our top 10, 2 top 10 picks for your 1. I mean, you throw Cade Cunningham with the Orlando Magic, that might actually be more potentially good, I guess. I mean, you have Cole Anthony, but I think Cole Anthony's more of a scorer, at that off guard.
If you do that, then Orlando's also in the weaker Eastern Conference too, right? So it's not as hard to make the playoff. So therefore, you're going to be rough. So if you make the play, I mean, just look at the New York Knicks this year. We all know they weren't a top 4 team in the NBA. So there was just the Eastern, because it's top heavy. There's the bottom teams are not that great. So, but we've seen that I mean, just look at the Brooklyn Nets as well too. If you just make the playoffs, stars will want to come and play for you. Look at Brooklyn. They traded D'Angelo Russell in like a KD deal, signing whatever. Send them to Brooklyn. They made the playoffs in a crappy Eastern Conference, and then now you see Kyrie Irving wanting to go there. You want KD, James Harden, Blake Griffin. Now, if you just make the playoffs, if teams just show that you're trying to make play and you make the playoffs, especially like destinations like Orlando, New York, all those warm cities, the players will want to come play, especially with no state income tax in Orlando. That's a good choice, Rudy. I mean, if we can trade the number, get Cade Cunningham over there, and they play in a crappier Eastern Conference, then you'll start getting more free agents to come there.
Well, yeah, because let's be honest. I mean, you've got a young Wendell Carter, you've got Mo Bamba still, so you've got your big men. Those guys running up and down the court with a Cade Cunningham and a Cole Anthony, who Cole proved that he can score the ball. So, I mean, definitely could build something good there. If I'm Orlando, I'm definitely trying to see what I can do to get up to 1. But real quick, because this whole show is going pretty damn fast. What you got, Joe?
No, I said for the Magic, I think they essentially are starting from scratch, right? I mean, they traded all their guys mid-season, so the Magic are kind of that team that. I mean, 2 picks though, that's still pretty good. If you hit some home runs there, a team that's kind of, as Austin said, it's just been mediocre, just not really good. I mean, they did make the playoffs for 2 years in a row, but yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So real quick, as for some reason, our time is just going super fast today. The Spurs are drafting at number 12. You guys got any prospects in mind? I've been naming a bunch of them. You've seen Wagner's been basically tied to them.
I want to draft Wagner.
I like the Moody pick as well. I mean, it makes sense. You got a 3-and-D player from Arkansas there, but I was loving Zaire Williams. But now that I'm starting to see Keon from Tennessee fall a little bit, I do like the Keon pick from Tennessee. I could get behind a Kai Jones from Texas pick.
That's the kid that I'm kind of interested. I know he didn't play a ton of basketball for his whole life, but I think he's a kid that's kind of interesting.
Well, if you watch, because I watched a lot of Texas basketball this year, and Kai
Mhm.
Jones, like you said, he didn't play at the beginning, but man, he has made stride after. I mean, his athleticism is through. I think he's going to be a great if he just has the right coaching, which the Spurs do. Spurs have that great. If he gets the right coaching, he can easily be a stud in this league. I have no problem with the Spurs taking a player like that, but I like the Gonzaga, the guy you've been saying all along from Gonzaga. I mean, he needs some 3-point shooting. He can shoot the lights out from three. He gives you hustle. He gives you some separation. Gives you more scoring ability. I like that one too, but. I don't know.
Yeah,
Spurs are going to spur. They're going to probably go Euro and go find someone weird. I don't know.
yeah. And speaking
Who is
of
this guy?
going Euro, we got the international man of mystery here, Austin
Deuce-
Hartzell,
Deuce
joining
Bigelow.
joining us for the last 19 minutes of the show here. Hey man, so we were talking NBA, obviously. We were talking lottery picks and everything. Spurs, man, do you got a person in mind as far as prospect goes for the Spurs? Since you are such a Spurs fan.
No, man, this draft really drops off once you get past 4 or 5, depending on how much
Yep.
you like those guys. So I mean, and especially with me not having a pick, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to pay attention. But I don't really have anybody in mind for the Spurs. I do have a comment. Thought it was weird that y'all said that the Spurs didn't need a scorer, considering that the highest
I didn't
scorer
say
in the
that.
contract
I
average
did not
15
say
Who
points.
said that?
I didn't say that. No way.
I said the Spurs.
It was one
I
of
said the
y'all.
Spurs need a scorer. I said this. I think it was Rudy because I said.
I think it was
brought up.
Rudy who said, "There's no way we need a score. We can't even score. We need a scorer."
Yeah, like you
Well,
have
you need to put
your
the ball in the basket.
well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point. But
Well,
Uh,
That's just the whole point of basketball, right?
y'all are completely against this Ben Simmons thing in general.
I was 100% completely against it until I really sat down and did the research on it, and now
Yeah.
I can totally get behind it.
I mean, think about it. He's so young. Like maybe, and I forget who was talking about it today. They were talking maybe he's just Draymond. Sorry, I'm not in my normal
That's
spot,
exa-
so I'm kind of
No, you're
That's
good.
maybe
exactly
he's
what I've been
just
trying to say.
Draymond. He's an anchor. He was a defensive player of the year candidate this year. So what? He can't score. He can do other things. They were talking about him being perfect in Golden State, and I
think
was
he'll
talking
be
about that with
perfect
my
in Golden
uncle.
State.
That is the ideal situation. There is not a better situation out there for him. Him in Oklahoma City would be funny with Presti. Just Presti kind of throwing picks out there and seeing who nibbles and what kind of gets what. Because Kemba Walker in Philly wouldn't be an awful idea. That's just my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. That would actually, I think, work out a lot better for Philadelphia. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that we could go through when it comes to the NBA. We're gonna do a lot more NBA draft coverage. We're gonna be sharing some mock drafts, whether it be lottery, full first rounds, whatever. Also, we'll have first round coverage of the NBA draft, which is I believe July 29th. We're gonna be doing first round coverage of that in with Project Spurs as well. So be looking for that. We're doing some more coverage. Austin's in here, and one of Austin's boys made his debut last night. And when we talked about Wander, it was something along the lines of we wonder how good this guy's going to be. I'm not going to shy away from it. I did say that we're probably looking at the possible next Mike Trout type player. I want to know, Austin, how close am I to that assessment when it comes to Wander?
So we have to understand that this is a generational prospect. I was asked a couple of years, it might have been actually by you on the show, if I would rather have Vladdy, if I would rather have Tatis, or if I would rather have Wander. And that was like a year and a half ago. And I'm pretty sure I said Wander. And even knowing what I know today, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't switch up to one of those guys. I love Fernando. Like I've gotten to talk to Fernando. Is just an incredible person to talk to interview. But it's Wander all day, man. This guy's got plate discipline, which Tatis doesn't really have yet. It's like having an extra tool when you have plate discipline in today's game, because that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants OBP. Everybody wants you to get on base. That's the biggest thing. And when you're a 5-tool player and you also have plate discipline, it just makes you that much more dangerous. I love Wander. There's not a prospect in baseball that I would trade for him.
Nice.
Probably 2 or 3, honestly.
Well, nice. I wanted to get the Wander question in. I do want to get something else in for all of us here. Doesn't look like we're going to get to some more MLB talk, but there is a topic that came up, and it's NBA what ifs. So Austin had this thing about what are the biggest what ifs in the NBA. I'm going to let Austin kind of lead this a little bit. We'll kind of piggyback off of him because I want to know what he's talking about on NBA what ifs. I mean, what if Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot in the finals for the Spurs?
Let it go.
Are we seeing an undefeated?
That's not
No, we can't let it go.
That's
Let it
not the
go.
what if there.
What if
We
Des
don't know what the
Bryant
real what
actually
if is
caught the
there.
ball? I mean, we can go NFL, but this is
I
straight
mean, yeah.
NBA. Give me your what ifs, Austin. Give me the what if.
All right, I have a list here because I was kind of figuring out something to do. So I have 2 categories essentially. I have players and I have moments. Right.
Okay.
So players, you have the obvious ones. Like if you were a Portland Trailblazer and had any talent at all, you probably got hurt and ruined your career.
Yeah.
Bill Walton, Brandon Roy, Greg Oden. Same
Oden.
thing goes for high Celtics picks, whether it be Reggie Lewis or it be Lim Bias. Roy Tarpley is personally my favorite because those 90s Mavs teams were so bad, and going back throughout quarantine and just finding those games and watching what that guy could do physically before drugs and the law. I mean, minor details, but that's a big one for me. Moments is a lot more fun. Okay. And going back through this, I found a ton of Spurs moments. So essentially the Spurs are 2 plays away in the early 2000s from going to 5 straight finals, right? So you're the Fisher shot and you're the Dirk foul.
That damn Dirk foul.
Yeah.
Man,
It didn't end well for me either. So let's not like, what if Dwayne Wade doesn't shoot 96 free throws? But that's not on the list. Let's see. The Chris Paul trade is the biggest one for me. There's so many effects that go to that. I mean, Kyle Lowry's not a Hall of Famer if that trade happens because he doesn't wind up in Toronto. There's so many things, and Bill Simmons did a great thing for Grantland about 8 years ago on the Chris Paul trade. And it kind of showed the ripple effects of it. But the thing that got me going is the lottery. The lottery is the biggest what if scenario that there is because you have pick swaps, you have just boom and bust. So I kind of want to know what y'all's big what ifs are in NBA history. And by the way, the what if for the Ray Allen shot isn't all that. It's why isn't Duncan on the floor, and what if he is?
Exactly right.
I have a pretty big one that came to mind as people in 2000. It was rumored Tim Duncan might go to the Magic.
Is it the plane?
What if Tim Duncan goes to the Magic? What is left of the Spurs? Like what is this franchise left with? Because as we know, David's already on his last back.
He's got nothing by 03.
So
Spurs are sold and moved. I can already guarantee that.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, I could see that because it was already rumored throughout those years. Plus, Pop almost got fired. 99 when they started 6 and something, right? So I think that would have been a huge moment if he goes to the Magic. Now, do the Magic get to the finals? I mean, Grant Hill was hurt, right? So it's one of those things. They don't have Grant. It's Tracy and Duncan. I think that's a good formidable.
Tracy and Duncan and Doc.
Tracy Duncan and oh my God, Doc Rivers with his blunders.
That's why he's not there because Doc wouldn't let his family on the team playing.
So it's one of those things where another what if moment. Then I'll pass it to Trey.
Hurry the hell up, man.
The 2003 NBA draft. If the Detroit Pistons do not take Darko Milicic, if they take Carmelo Anthony, that means Spurs and Pistons. I don't know. I'm just being honest. If the Spurs beat the Pistons in that 2005 finals, because I think Carmelo would have been a huge part of trying to beat that team. That would have been a tough series. I mean, that series already went 7, but adding a Carmelo Anthony in that mix.
Yeah.
Woo! Ugly series.
Yeah, that wasn't a nice series. That would have been a tough series. But go ahead, Trey. Since Rudy's complaining.
Well, I'm confused. It's just about what is about Spurs or any NBA team.
No.
Anything you want.
It could be anything. Any what if in the NBA?
Well, mine is not too recently. If Draymond Green doesn't get suspended for Game 5,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I mean, if they win Game 5, Draymond Green ain't suspended. That means Kevin Durant ain't coming to Golden State. That means does LeBron James stay in? Like it's a whole lot of other if factors in that like played out to where we are right now. If Draymond Green doesn't get suspended, another one is Mavericks after the 2011 championship. What happens if they don't blow it up? What happens if Mark Cuban wants to get in the salary cap and run it back to back? Do the Heat go? Do the Heat not even win to a title because the Spurs? I mean, I'm just saying, Mark Cuban didn't blow up that because that team was magical. Rick Carlisle had that team, and it might get some younger players, maybe traded Jason Terry or somebody like that. But Jason Terry basically carried that team with Dirk. Dirk carried the team, but Terry was there along for the ride to help the sidekick
The whole way.
An aging Jason Kidd. They could probably
Sean
get rid
Marion.
of him, but if you just Sean Marion, if you just kept the main core together and just got little pieces here and there, and get in the luxury tax, Mark Cuban. I know you're about saving money in Shark Tank and all this and that, but if you would just kept the freaking team together, LeBron probably only have 2 rings or maybe even 1 with both those scenarios. Come to
That's
place.
not even the Maverick one that sucks, though. The one that sucks is breaking
The
up Dirty
2010
Filthy Nasty whenever you
Yeah.
break up Nash, Finley, and Dirk because you don't want to pay
Yeah.
Nash.
That's right.
How about if the Blazers would draft Jordan instead of?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
probably the
how
actually
does-
biggest one.
the
how
only
does
reason
that
they
happen?
did it was because of Clyde Drexler.
Well, to be fair, I mean, wait, no, they ended up drafting Sam Bowie, right? That draft.
Sam Bowie was that year.
So to be fair, the big man ruled the NBA. I mean, Hakeem went to the Rockets and Sam Bowie. The NBA was a big baller thing, right? So the big men ruled. Jordan, from watching that documentary, a lot of guys had mentioned in the 80s that like no shooting guard is going to take a team to an NBA championship, right? It was always the big man. So Jordan kind of was that different breed. But as Larry Bird called him, it was Jesus disguised. Jeez, man, that's a crazy. But go ahead, Rudy. What's your what if?
So there's a few of them that I've got. There's 2 of them that are way before you guys' time. I know that. But
Let's go.
my first one is what if Len Bias actually plays in the NBA?
Yes.
We're talking about a guy who is potentially, and I'm saying potentially because I saw him, I saw a little bit of highlight stuff in college, potentially a better player than Jordan would ever have been.
Ask Coach K about it.
Yeah. Len Bias is the guy who would have easily said, Michael Jordan who? I mean, that's the kind of player that he was. So if he doesn't die, then is Air Jordan the potential greatest of all time? We don't know. That's
What
one.
if the Trailblazers take Durant?
That's another one. Durant is an important trailblazer. Also,
With LaMarcus.
I remember that. I remember that, man. I was screaming at the TV, "Do not take Odin! Do not take Odin!"
Yeah. Odin had
Oh,
problems
man.
coming through high school. I mean, he had all those
Exactly.
problems. I don't see why, and you only take him because he's supposed to be the next big man, the big thing. It's the same thing with Michael Olowokandi. I mean,
The Candy Man. Sorry.
why do you take Candy? And he's from Pacific of all places. That to me is remarkable. But if Drazen Petrovic doesn't have the car accident,
That's a good one.
you guys would think
I knew that one
Steph
was
Curry
coming.
is probably the 3rd or 4th best shooter in NBA history. Drazen Petrovic was, according to Michael Jordan, Trey gives me the look. According to Michael Jordan, Drazen Petrovic was the hardest player to defend in the league.
I
He
got
had
Oh,
the
well,
quickest
well,
trick.
we'll get into that. Michael Jordan also didn't guard Steph Curry. He didn't guard Damian Lillard. He didn't guard any of these other players.
He guarded
I got-
Reggie Miller.
Transform the
He
lane.
guarded Reggie Miller.
I think
He got a quick trigger.
Oh, give me a Reggie Miller. I'm gonna be top 5 shooting after this is all said and done.
I think I have the best what if.
Go ahead.
If Tom Brady, that damn tuck game,
oh
if,
yeah.
if
There's
they
a lot
call
of them
that
that-
Oakland's way, I think maybe the Colts may have a few more Super Bowls. Who knows if Tom Brady ends up staying there or what
Why do we
actually
have to do
happened.
this?
But if
I
Tom
don't know,
Brady,
NBA
if the
is
talk
bringing a
rule,
benefit.
if it was a fumble, Raiders win, what happens to the Patriots? I mean, we don't know, but
I wanted to
It's a
say
pretty big
something
one.
insensitive there, but I remember we were podcasting.
You can do it. I mean, we're okay if you want,
If
but
there's no hurricane, the Saints don't have a Super Bowl.
oh,
yeah, I can see that.
True. I can see that
That's a
too.
very true statement.
Hey,
okay, so do you want to talk
last
about
one.
draft? Okay, you want to look at this. You can think about this one. You can talk about draft. One of the absolute worst drafts in NBA history is the 1999 draft. The 1999 draft, where Elton Brand is the number 1 pick, is the absolute worst draft.
Wait, is it because he went to Duke?
There is
That
no
draft is
player. There is no player in that draft worth a shit. We're talking Richard Hamilton is probably the best player drafted in the first round.
He's a
go
first round
back to
draft
that
pick. I don't know why you're arguing about
Oh,
that.
let me take a look
No,
here.
Go
Let
back
me
to that
see.
draft. Do you
Dude,
want to know
it's
who
awful.
the best player is?
Barry
drafted?
Davis
That was
wasn't
really
bad.
bad too.
No. The best player in that draft was the second to last pick, and that was one Manu Ginobili. Imagine
Wait.
going back and knowing what you know now. And John's in here saying Corey Maggette. Corey Maggette sucks. That's for sure. Corey Maggette sucks.
Wait.
All
Baron
right.
Davis was pretty good though. But Baron was good. I mean, he
Baron
Okay.
Davis got the Clippers the Blake Griffin picks, or sorry, the Cavaliers the Kyrie Irving picks. So there's
Yeah.
that.
wait.
Yeah.
Look at this, Scott Padgett. Wow, some of these names are just
Exactly.
going.
One of the worst drafts. If you throw that draft again, you're talking about Manu Ginobili probably being the number 1 pick, and he would have come over that year
You
for the
know,
Bulls.
have you guys seen The Ringer? That show with
Yeah, it's the best.
So
The
he
redraftable?
he has
Yeah.
done a mock draft, like a redraft of almost every draft since like
Yeah.
the 1999, and he
Up
said
until
Manu would probably go
14, I
number
think.
1. Yeah. I
There's
think
no
Manu
way
would
he
go.
does it.
Yeah.
There's no way he does it. Go number 1.
So Manu's going to the Chicago Bulls. Look at that.
And you get
weird.
Manu at that age, remember, because he didn't come to the Spurs for years. You get a young Manu on a Bulls at that time, and you give him free will. Jesus Christ. man.
Dan, Wally
We would have free
Zerbiak.
will on that team.
Wally
Yeah.
Zerbiak.
Hey, Wally was good, man.
trained in like from Duke. My God. Some of
Yeah,
these
we're,
guys.
we're talking the 99 draft, which was one of the worst drafts in NBA history.
Hey, I think we should do like a segment like that where we do like a redraft.
I'm down.
We can do a redraft segment because I guarantee you Trajan Langdon is a 2nd round pick. There's no way he goes in the top. Well, he's 11th here. I mean, your best
Calvin
players are what?
Booth.
Steve.
I think we just
Steve
show up next
Francis,
podcast
maybe?
with the top 10s. Our own top 10s from 99.
Oh God.
Todd
Miller.
McCullough. Todd McCullough. He played for the 76ers. I remember him.
Okay,
Jesus.
Andre Karolinko would definitely be a top 10 from that draft.
100%.
I'd give it make it 47. Steve Francis would be another one. Obviously, Manu Ginobili's there.
Yeah.
That's 3. Can you really? Okay, Andre Miller had a good career. I'll give him that. Sean Marion had a decent career. I'll give him that. Maybe that's 4 and 5. Can you even
Decent.
say
Yeah.
James Posey was
decent.
decent. James Posey was decent.
Rip Hamilton, Steve Francis?
Y'all leave James
Lamar
Posey
Odom?
alone.
He's pretty. He's a pretty good. I mean,
I
he was
love
all right.
James Posey.
Posey was good, but is he top 10 from the 99 draft? That's
He
In the
might be
99
though.
draft, maybe.
Yeah, he could be though, Rudy.
it's
I
a
mean,
terrible-
who else are you gonna?
Yeah.
Michael Ruffin from Tulsa,
Ugh.
Calvin
You
Booth.
know what's
I
bad
remember
when
Calvin.
Jonathan Bender is
Don't
the
mention
5th
Calvin
pick in
Booth's
the
name.
draft. I mean,
Whatever happened to
99.
Jonathan Bender? His college is not even on this thing I'm looking at. It's blank.
he was from high school, dude. He was a high school, straight out of high school pick.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jason Terry was pretty good.
But is he
William-
top 10? He's not top 10, is he?
He
From
was
this
in that draft.
Are you kidding
from
me?
this draft, he
Okay,
was
maybe
Rudy.
in that-
I mean, who?
maybe in that
Is this a
draft.
joke after all those names that you named?
Yeah, Rudy. Seriously, he has to be top 10. Leon Smith.
Jesus.
Okay, so if you had those 9 and you've got one more guy, real quick before we leave, Devin George.
Devin George is also.
I'm going Todd McCullough
You're a
because
dumbass,
he
man.
took.
Oh, you ain't
He was on
gonna
that
go.
76ers NBA Finals team.
All right, so
I'm thinking Todd McCullough.
So last week we had the whole Tinder thing, which I'm still working on the Tinder thing. We're gonna get the details of that. I actually had a lot of people message me if we're gonna do the Tinder recruiting challenge, and that's like still a go. We're gonna have to actually get the 99 redraft show going. So we'll get that going.
I mean, we just had the show. I mean, we just had.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's pick another one.
But we got 10 seconds left here. So till next week, for Austin, for Trey, for Gio, we swept the leagues, all of them actually, MLB, NBA. We're going to get into this 99 draft debacle here. We'll probably do that on the next couple of shows here. Follow us more on Sweep the League. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. We're going to be doing some mock drafts here pretty soon, probably some videos as well. So for, like I said, Gio, Austin, Trey, Rudy Campos Jr., we swept the league again. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week.